everybody. Today we are doing Open Source Friday, as I do every Friday. And this is basically a show or a Twitch stream where I chat with open source maintainers or open source core contributors about their experiences and about their projects that they're working on to help get us more exposed to open source as well. So I'm going to bring up Nyah, who is our guest today. Hey, Nyah.
Hey, Pam, how you doing?
Good, good. Would you mind introducing yourself for us?
Yes. First of all, thank you all so much for coming. I am so grateful and so appreciative to Rizal for having me on today. But yeah, so to give a little bit of like, who am I? What do I do, etc. So my name is Nyah Macklin. My pronouns are they, them, theirs. And I am a developer advocate and one of the founding software engineers for this incredible up and coming WebAssembly extensibility company. And that company, you need to keep your eyes and your ears out for. It's called Suborbital Software Systems. So Suborbital. But I have a number of years of experience advocating for the use of free software and the equitable use of open source. But actually, I'm an engineer who has a non-traditional background, right? So I, just like Rizal, we are career changers. So I actually have a degree in African and African-American studies from Brandeis University. So I do not have a CS degree or anything like that. And my previous career was in civil service and community organizing. So that particular background is really interesting. Folk will be like, why would you switch from community organizing into tech? Like those seem like very different experiences. And it's very cool because my background gave me the expertise, right, to decipher the ways or the systems within tech that continue to perpetuate either exclusion or bias for historically marginalized communities, right? So when I'm not writing code, I am, or developer-centered content for Suborbital and repping them proud. I'm usually helping seniors learn how to become more technically literate because it's a struggle.
That's awesome. You mean when you say seniors, you mean in age, right?
Yes,
wow,
seniors in age.
Crazy. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't know you did that.
Yep. It's a thing. It's hard. It's really, really difficult. Yeah, we can get into it later. But yeah, that's some things I do on the side.
I bet. No, now that's all I want to talk about.
Yeah, for real.
No, but even when you said you came from this community organizing background to tech, I feel like there's so much like community organizing and community building within tech. So like those skills are so transferable.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you said you rep Suborbital, so tell us what it is.
Yes. So Suborbital, like I said, y'all need to keep y'all eyes out for this company right here. Okay. So we're really small, but we're actually a company that builds products that leverage this technology called WebAssembly to make SaaS or software as a service applications extensible with user-defined plugins. So we have a number of different products and open source products, but in general, that's what we do.
Ooh, okay. Yeah. And I think this is, I'm going to skip a question and then circle back to it because I've seen a question in the chat that I also have this question of is what is WebAssembly? I like read about it, but like I do not understand what I'm reading. So would you mind like explaining it to like if you were speaking to a 5-year-old or something?
Yeah. No, excellent question. Thank you so much, Abhishek. Yeah, you got the real question right here. So, yeah, like when I first heard of WebAssembly, I was like, I don't even know what that is. What are you talking about? Is that a word? Like, what is that? Is that technology? Is that a language? Right? Yeah. So actually, I'll give the like a proper definition for WebAssembly, and then I'll give like the like if we're brand new to WebAssembly, like in plain language, what would that mean? Yeah. So WebAssembly, or WASM for short, you often hear folk call it WASM, WASM, all capital letters. But WebAssembly is actually a compile target, right? So it's a compile target where you can compile your favorite programming language and then execute that language on the browser. So let me let me ELI 5. So explain like I'm 5. That's what that means. So let me explain like I'm 5. So if Rizal, you and myself are speaking a language. So if I speak a particular language and you speak a particular language, that can be English, for example. So if we're both speaking English, then we share the same language. Or
Mhm.
it could be a language called JavaScript.
Mhm.
Some folk might not know what JavaScript is. That's perfectly fine. But if you do, you know that that is a programming language. So for ELI 5, explain like I'm 5, WASM or WebAssembly, if we're speaking two different languages, if we're speaking two different languages here,
Mhm.
WASM is the translator, okay? That
Okay.
allows us to understand each other, that allows you to understand me and me to understand you. And it does that super fast. So you
Okay.
can think of WASM and WebAssembly as the translator between two different languages.
Oh.
That language could be JavaScript, or it could be like Go, Rust, C++, like anything like that.
Okay, wow, that's actually the best explanation that I've heard so far. Because
Very
every time I read it, I'm like, I still don't know what it is. Is it a language? But now I'm understanding that it's not a language. It's just a compiler, and it could compile
boom,
other languages. I thought it was
boom.
for Rust too. I was like, is it? I don't know, but that was great. Someone also wrote great explanation. I also want to call out that Ramon is watching. So hey, Ramon. Awesome. All right. So, oh, Haley's here. Hey, no, this is a regular thing. Like,
Hey,
I do this every Friday, just so you know.
come through, come through.
All right. And I'll just say hey to a couple more people. Also, hey to AJ, what's up?
Hey,
All
Jay.
right. So, we learned about what is suborbital. We learned
Mhm,
that WebAssembly is translating
mhm.
programming languages from one to another so that they can
Oh,
be able to communicate with each other.
okay.
Um, How did you discover open source? Was Suborbital your first encounter with it? Were you into it way before Suborbital? Yeah.
Mhm. Yes, so it's really interesting. Suborbital was my first formal contribution to an open source project that I,
Mhm.
of course, didn't maintain.
Yeah.
So that was really incredible. But like, how did I discover open source?
Yeah.
So I heard of the concept of open source actually through the concept of free software. And that was
Mm.
specifically through, yes, honey, AJ, Suborbital is tight. Okay, stop playing. Suborbital.dev, y'all go take a look. So I learned about even the concept of free software through this organization that's right located in Boston, where I used to live, the Free Software Foundation. Okay.
Mm.
And I had not like known about this concept or movement, or like even the fact that software could be free or could be open source for communities. I had only known of like tech and software to be like things that were only accessible to the most quote unquote elite. And those who were quote unquote elite did not look like you and me, right?
Mhm.
Uh-huh. When I had recognized that, oh, like open source is actually a way that I too can build software and build software that is accessible to
Mhm.
lots of
Mhm.
different communities. And that is something that I was really, really interested in. And so, like I had mentioned, Suborbital was my first contribution to an open source project that I wasn't maintaining.
Yeah.
Um, and I absolutely love the process. So yeah, I can talk about that a little bit later. But the first thing that I had built with Suborbital was this. It was called the create handler command. It's like a little integration into a CLI, which is
Ooh.
command line integration tool.
Mhm.
And the entire process was made really, really easy through the team. And so that first introduction to open source through Suborbital was what led me to continue to both maintain and contribute to open source in the future.
I love that like discovery for you. I love that. I I also am new. Like I still think I'm fairly new to open source because I only discovered
Yeah.
it when I started working at GitHub. I
Yep.
remember in Resilient Coders that Leon had encouraged my cohort to get involved with free open source, like the
Mhm.
Floss Foundation. But I was kind of like, I don't got time for that. I'm just gonna.
Talk about it.
I
Talk
didn't
about
even finish my projects.
yeah.
So I really didn't understand at that point.
Yeah.
Let me see. Let me see. I don't want to. So I see y'all's questions. I'm going to just star some of them,
Mhm.
but we'll get to those later. And then we're not going to go too technical right now in this episode, just so y'all know. Okay. So, um, my other question or follow-up question, we talked about like how you discovered open source is like, what did your career journey look like from first
Mhm.
learning to code to now maintaining projects at Suborbital?
Woo-wee. Yes. Okay. So what did that career journey look like? Um, so I had started off, both Rizal and I both went to Resilient Coders, an incredible coding boot camp that gave folk who are low income, but in the Boston area, the opportunity to learn incredible technical skills, which would then propel them into high income positions. And those positions come with power as well, right? So thinking about like what was my journey into open source and into Suborbital, that was the crux and the core of it.
Mhm.
I did, like I said before, like before I had transitioned into tech, didn't even know the open source was a thing.
Yeah.
Um, but then throughout that journey and throughout the coding boot camp, and then also working for another company, it was a healthcare tech company, and then moving then to Suborbital, which I like, like I rep and die for Suborbital. Like
I love it. No, I love it.
but yeah, so a little bit about I think that that's like the overall of what the journey has been. But I also, like I had mentioned, I also maintain, or I started off maintaining my own project, and that was my like first introduction to open source, was like building this project. And I think we're going to get into a little bit later, this incredible project called Communal. And we can talk about that later, but that was my first intersection at like building something that can be used and should be used by everyone for free.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't mind, we could go into it since like it seems like a natural transition of like
Yeah.
what was your intention with like what are your plans for or what were your plans for it? And then
Mhm.
yeah, we'll start with that.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Okay, so yeah, so I have a ongoing open source project called Communal. So Communal, I'm so proud of it. Like I love it so much. Communal is a resource sharing application, right? It's a resource sharing application for folks to try and disrupt capitalism and reinvigorate the gift economy. All right.
Mhm.
So I had started this project during the pandemic, where folks of my community were really struggling to get basic safety equipment, right? So that is masks, gloves, PPE, which is personal protective equipment, right? And other small things that could be diapers, it could be formula, toilet paper, right? Food, right?
Yeah.
Basic necessities. And folk in my community, lower income community, they were struggling to get their hands on it, especially during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So I had created this application to make it easier for folk to share our resources with each other, right? Like try and get off of having to need the money to buy things, especially when we don't have control over the distribution of such items, right?
Yeah.
So trying to give that power back to us and really try to and disrupt that normal, what we've made normal in our minds, is that we have to buy goods rather than sharing our resources. And so that's why I had created the project, and I have lots of big plans for it as well. I've already built the basic interface for the exchanging process of goods. However, I'm still looking to build out a tracker as well, which is one of the few features that I'm looking to build out for the project, so that folk can see, and this will help with folks' taxes in the future, but folk can track and see what donations they have made via that application. Yes, and that'll then help with doing their taxes, et cetera, in the future.
Oh, that's a great addition. Like, yes, making it way easier because I hate when I do taxes and they're like, "What gifts and donations have you done?" I'm like, "I don't remember." Like,
Don't
oh my
Yeah.
god, that's an awesome addition.
Thank
And
you.
if you don't mind me asking, I would say for me, I know you said you were like working on it and then
Mhm.
like there was barriers that maybe didn't allow you to continue
Yes.
working on it.
Yes.
For me, I usually get blocked because of time or
Mhm.
finances and other responsibilities that come up. Would you say it's the same for you? Are there any additional barriers that may stop people like us from being able to continue maintaining our own open source projects?
Without a doubt. Like, right? Like, without a doubt. Like, if I could work on this open source project and really like many open source projects, even Suborbital's open source projects full time, like that would be the dream, right?
Yeah.
Because the projects that we're making, not only remember, like open source project isn't, it's inherently more accessible to various members of our community rather than closed source. Like
Mhm.
closed source is usually for profit as well, et cetera, et cetera. Like it's all those added layers. So like if I could do this full time, like full stop, that's the dream. However, right, when we talk blatantly about it, like I can't afford to do so, right? Like I right now am the primary breadwinner for my family, right?
Yeah.
And for those who don't know or didn't gather from the conversation that we've had so far, like my family also, we have been in poverty up until to about like 2 to 3 years ago when I had joined the field.
Yeah.
And so it's a drastically different experience. Like I said, we have just come into building generational wealth, and
Yeah.
that is directly tied to my transitioning into tech, right?
Yeah.
So the decision to contribute to open source full time is not a luxury that both you and myself have.
Yeah.
If we want to continue to provide for our families, create, maintain a roof over our heads, have food, electricity, and water.
Yes, yeah, and that's been like a reoccurring. So this month I've mostly tried to feature Black maintainers just because it's
Mhm.
Black History Month, and that's been like the reoccurring thing that they've all said when I'm like, are there barriers for you, or like why is there a lot as much diversity in open source from their opinion? And it's always been around like I just started creating some semblance of generational wealth, and I may not always have the time to like invest in open source, even though that's what I want.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's absolutely it.
Thanks for being vulnerable and sharing that.
Yeah,
Um,
we're being real here.
one thing I'm really impressed with is just your engineering skills. Like you're just an intelligent engineer, like so amazing. And I was looking at Suborbital's like repo, and it's talking about they got Rust in there. We already talked about WebAssembly, Go, and all these other languages. I know
Yes.
for me, I tend to go on the safe side. If I see languages I don't know on the job description, I'm like, next, I'm doing JavaScript.
Period.
I'm like, Go, I don't know about that one.
Right.
I'm like React, Node. So I'm just curious, do you have any advice for folks on like joining a company when you're not familiar with the technologies you're using? How do you
Mhm.
get up to speed? Like what's the key here?
Yes. Excellent, excellent questions, Roselle. Okay, so always when you start a new code base, like it is anxiety producing, right?
Mhm.
Like you're like, I don't know this language. I don't know this framework. I've never worked in it before.
Yeah.
And how could I even think to like, y'all want me to code in this? Like y'all tripping, right? Like that's
Right.
ridiculous. Fire me now. Like let me go so I can avoid all of this as much as possible. And just like you said as well, like we avoid even job listings that list new frameworks, functionalities, languages that we've never touched before.
Yeah.
And like the key here is understanding, and this is something that Leon Noel had taught me straight up when I
Yes,
had started.
Leon.
Yes, Leon. Shout out to our boy, right? The homie, the mentor, the Leon had taught me that no matter what technology you have, right? No matter what language you're going to be forced into, like
Mhm.
you in all of your training have the ability to learn it,
Yep.
right?
That's true.
So it's like we need to understand that like our company can change the stack today,
Yeah.
right? we're not always going to be building in the same tech stack. And it's not about your knowledge. Like I could be an expert in Rust, I can be an expert in Go,
Yeah.
but that's all good and well, but like things change, right?
Yeah.
Technologies and languages update as well. There are new things that come out every day. And it
That's
is up
so
to
true.
you as a software engineer to be able to pivot, to be able to adjust, and to be able to constantly learn those new technologies, right? That's
Yeah.
like, if you were an engineer 50 years ago, you know that the same languages that you used 50 years ago are not the same languages that we use.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I think that when I'm giving advice to folk who are not familiar with the technologies that you're using, like the mentality that we have to shift from is, instead of being so afraid of it and running from it, we have to run towards it.
Yes. I like that. Okay. You always got like good quotes, like quotable sayings.
I try.
Yes. No, that is so true. Like that's where
Mhm.
growth happens, when you go towards the things that may seem a little bit more uncomfortable, but
Mhm.
eventually you'll be like, "Oh, wait, I like this."
Yes.
I'll quickly just check the chat just to
Mhm.
make sure there's nothing crazy that, well, not crazy, nothing that I missed.
Yeah.
Um let's see. Someone said good explanation. People were loving that explanation of yours. Um,
Appreciate it.
this question seems a little difficult. Tell me if you're like,
Mhm.
not ready to answer that, or
Mhm. Let's see. What do I want to process? Okay, so this question here: why would I want to use execute? I'm sure it's execute anything other than a node process in my browser. You can,
yeah,
you can, and that's okay, right?
yeah,
It's totally about what are you most comfortable with. So WebAssembly allows folk who don't know Node, right, who don't know JavaScript,
okay,
in order to create applications, games, etc. So like if you wrote a game in Unity, for example, now with WebAssembly you can compile that code to WebAssembly, and now that code that you wrote in your favorite programming language is able to be run on the browser, and the
So,
advantage of
yeah.
using.
I love that. Yes, thank you. That was a great way to answer it, because I was like, I don't know, but like, yeah, it's just about making it accessible, because
Mhm.
let's say you're a Python developer, Go developer, whatever. You want
Right.
something to be in the browser. You don't know Node, makes it easy. That's
Thank
perfect.
you.
Someone
Yeah.
said shout out to Bostonians. Hey.
Gang, gang, period. Okay. Shout out. Roxbury, if you're in the house, you already know.
Somebody asked a similar question, so I'll just say the same thing to that. Is like,
Yeah.
if you wanted to execute Python in your browser, that's because you want to build something in Python, but you want it to be accessible in the browser.
Right.
Um, I wonder, what do you think about this question? They said, does WebAssembly have the same possibilities that JavaScript has? For example, can it operate on the DOM?
I would definitely say that WebAssembly has the same possibilities. And really, like hot take, some people are saying that that WebAssembly can overtake JavaScript. I'm not saying that it will happen. I'm not saying it will happen, but there are some folk who are like, WebAssembly is going to overtake JavaScript. I think that WebAssembly extends the possibilities of JavaScript in
Mm,
really unique ways. Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, it gives it more opportunities. Let's see if
Hmm.
there's anything else. When we say applications, do we mean graphical ones? Hmm.
Yeah.
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 Or they said, or CLI based ones. But yeah, I think we're talking about, what did you say?
I said either.
Yeah, yeah, we're talking about either one. Uh,
Mhm.
I will do a pause on these questions, and go back. Sorry if you're, hope you're okay
No,
with
I'm
it.
cool with it.
People said, well said. I think so too. Like, you really handle all these questions with
I'm
like
trying.
perfection.
Appreciate y'all so much for bearing with me.
No, it's amazing. Like, this is really enjoyable conversation, at
Yay.
least for me.
Good.
Um, my question now is, like, let's say people are like, "Yo, suborbital sounds cool." We already had even people come into the chat and say suborbital is the stuff. How
Yes, it
can
is.
people contribute? to Suborbital if they wanted to.
Yes. Okay. We're so excited. Please contribute. Suborbital is the ish. So the way to contribute to Suborbital's open source product is by going to suborbital.dev/open source.
I got you. Putting
Yep.
it on here right now.
Thank you. Perfect. So suborbital.dev/open source, and you'll see one of our best open source products that we have here today. So it's the Suborbital extension engine, which is specifically running on E2 Core. So E2 Core is the open source product that we have. And it's an open source plugin server that connects with any application to allow our users to execute sandboxed, user-defined plugins. So I was talking about WebAssembly extensibility, and taking your favorite application, and you're like, oh, this application would be so incredible if it had this particular feature, and if it had this feature, it would make my life as a developer easier because then I can incorporate it into my application these very difficult ways, right? So the products that we have created allow users to do that extensibility work, that plugin work, where you can write plugins or functions or code, right? Just code in general, that allows extension of any particular application.
That's so cool. I like that it's a sandbox environment. Awesome.
Secure and safe. That's right.
I see a great question from Ramon.
Yes.
He said, I hear a lot about I said WASM in my head. It's WASM, right? WASM on the browser, but also on the server. What's up with that?
Yep. Excellent question, Ramon. And that is one of the incredible capabilities of WASM. You can do it both on the browser and also on the server. So Ramon is also here. Ramon is also a developer advocate at Suborbital. So definitely check out Ramon. But I'm so appreciative of both this question and making sure that folk know that there's various capabilities for WASM.
Yes. Thank you. We talked about your open source. Do you want people to also contribute to that, or are you want to work on it first and then we'll amplify it later?
Yes, so I'm working on it right now. I just want to make sure that it is ready for contributions. So I'm doing a little bit of refactoring, for example, right now, but look out in the next month for, because honey, mama got to pay some bills. Mama got to work full time. So look out in the next month for some information on how to contribute to Communal, because I really think it's a really useful, right? It's a really useful application. And it's, like I said, growing up in poverty myself, I've always had to normalize not having access to both opportunities, resources, etc. And I want this to be a common denominator where we can start having access to those things.
Yes, whenever it's ready, let me know, and I will amplify it on GitHub, because I do think in the tech industry, we do build a lot of solutions to things, but they're always like more on the technical side, or maybe for people with more money. And I do think we should start prioritizing like social impact.
Thank you. Come on. Like, how do we not?
Yeah. We have all this power, and we're like, what about a place that we store files? And we're like, we've done that already. What about something else?
Thank you. Please and thank you. Let's think more about social impact and tech and how those can intersect more closely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me see. We kind of answered some of these questions already. Okay, actually, so here's one we didn't answer.
Yeah.
It's like, I guess, okay, we talked about maybe the financial barriers around navigating open source as like a Black person. I'm wondering if, like, as a Black woman or a Black non-binary person, are there any additional challenges? Maybe not. I'm just curious from your perspective.
Yeah, I think the challenges that exist while being a Black person, Black non-binary, Black woman, within open source is probably exacerbated or just another level of being a Black person within the tech industry.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, like I know both of us know, right? very well the difficulties of existing within this field, within a very male, cishet male dominated field as well. And then thinking about access, right? And privilege when it comes to being able to dedicate your time to open source and also not be funded, and how those privileges might be how the difficulties might be exacerbated, given when you also navigate, or when you also operate at very particular identities and intersections within identities as well. So yeah, like all of that impacts being a Black non-binary person or a Black woman within the open source field. So difficult, but we still here.
We still
We still try to flourish. Yes.
But you're right. Like tech, it's already an issue, and then we're out to even smaller bubble within tech, so you could feel the effects or the impact even more, I think.
That's it.
What is, on the positive side, what's been like most rewarding part of being a maintainer and core contributor within Suborbital?
Yes. So some of the most rewarding the most rewarding parts of being a open source maintainer with Suborbital has been like working with contributors to make their first pull requests. And when I say that, I'm not just like, oh yeah, you made a pull request, but like doing so is confidence boosting for folk, right? Like,
yes, it is.
That's really monumental and really, really important, right? So folk who have not contributed to open source before, folk who have not coded, right, in many ways before, they're just making it's not even a just, they're making a really important contribution, whether that is a full feature or that is an edit on either a make file or a any file, right? Like that contribution is necessary, right? And that going through the process, the software development lifecycle, right? Like practicing that work, right, is really important, especially when you're also, if you're looking for jobs, right? Like contributing to open source is, I believe, it has a direct correlation to the life cycle of building software that you would have at any position as a full-time software engineer, getting paid to do it and not doing open source. But you can also get paid to do open source, so keep that in mind. But I think that that's one of the most rewarding parts, is that like folk are able to contribute in ways in which they've never been able to before. And like now they have something tangible that they can point to when, for example, they're looking at employers who are saying, like, okay, you say you're a software engineer, but what have you done? You're like, actually, my code is in production right now for this open source project. And that is really incredible.
Yes, no, I think that's such a good point. My first contribution to open source, my confidence skyrocketed. Like at first I was scared of it. I was like, what is this? I don't know. But like it did skyrocket. And then like being able to, I think being able to say like, oh, I've contributed to Suborbital, I've contributed to Astro and stuff like that, can hold more weight. Or even more weight than just being like, oh, this is my personal project, which that's cool too. But you're like, no, like people are using this.
And what we also forget is that many times, for really like for these big companies, a lot of these big companies also depend on that open source product, right? And so we understand, so when we put that into context, we're realizing actually like my contribution is monumental because it's holding up this really huge company, right? And that's huge. That is bragging rights.
That is. You could be like, I contributed to ESLint, and this company uses ESLint. So.
Thank you. Their infrastructure is built upon ESLint, right?
That's built upon something that you did, the contribution you did. But you're right. That is a really rewarding part of being in open source. And I think I love being at GitHub because then I can get to like introduce people to it more. Let's see. There's a few comments, some positive comments from David West that says, thanks. Oh, sorry. Wow, I can't read. This is This has been such a very enlightening session, and I appreciate the honesty and willingness to share. Thanks so much for this.
Thank
Um,
you, David.
Ramon said, "Love this answer. Big companies are running your code. Amazing. Yeah,
That's
I
right.
do. I love that perspective. I wasn't even thinking of it that way.
Hmm.
Um, someone, I think this is an interesting question. They're essentially asking, like, how would they get involved in WebAssembly? I think, like,
Hmm.
how would they get started
Hmm.
with doing anything around that? Do you have any ideas?
Yeah, so there's lots of different if you're specifically, it depends on like what kind of either project you're looking to get involved in, or like whether you're just like, I want to get started in WebAssembly in general.
Mhm.
But I think that it can be easier. Sorry for the stuttering. It can be easier to contribute to a particular project that uses WebAssembly to get you introduced to the ecosystem, to get you introduced to like the various impacts on performance that it could have on your code.
Yeah.
So if you are interested in getting started, I would definitely advise in starting on a project that uses WebAssembly, just like E2 Core for Suborbital is one, for example, but there are lots of others as well. And if you're looking to get started in WebAssembly in general, there's like entire communities that can introduce you to that. WebAssembly North America, for example, is one of the communities that Suborbital is a part of and runs.
Mhm.
And so that's both a hybrid, it's online and in person. They host events that introduce folk to the WebAssembly ecosystem, and introduce it. It also allows you to build connections of folk who are also interested in learning about WebAssembly, or are currently the front runners of either CEOs of companies, or just the folk who are building the products that allow WebAssembly to flourish. So there are lots of different communities that you can join if you're interested in learning more about WebAssembly, and also various different projects that you can join as well.
Great answer off the top of your head. Wow. Like, amazing. Yes. I
Right.
I agree with you. Like, let's say you wanted to get involved in React. It's like
Mm-hmm.
use a project that's using React first and then be like, okay, I can contribute. Also, your answer to the communities reminded me of I think I forget your CEO's name or CTO,
Oh
but
yeah.
go ahead. Sorry.
Either Connor Hicks is our CEO.
Okay, it was Connor.
Yeah.
Yes. I had interviewed him on a Twitter space a while back, and I remember him mentioning Wasm.builders as like a place where people blog, and a community where people like blog about Wasm and their learnings. That might also be another opportunity for folks to learn.
That's perfect.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Let me go back to this.
Mhm.
Um we can transition. Oh, actually, I want to know about your thoughts on building community. Like, why
Mhm.
build community? What's the value in community building for you?
Hoo-wee. Okay, so yes. This is a loaded question because like I have a very interesting history with community building, and
Okay.
it's not always tech specific and tech related, right? So my own history and trajectory with community building started off fighting for the rights of Black folk, right? And Black students in particular at my university. And it involved like ensuring that our university both saw us as equitable members of the community, saw that that we deserve to be treated equally, which was a difficulty at one point. Just to touch upon a deeper iceberg of an issue. But community building for me is imperative, right? Because it's like it um it allows movements to move, right?
Yeah.
It allows movements to move. It's like if you have a particular need or a particular passion, or something that is centered around that community, right? Like that is what everyone coming together around that particular need, issue, or what have you. And fostering community and ensuring that all the members of the community, whether they identify as a member of that community or not, like are being seen, heard, and given opportunities and resources to flourish. So, like building community is vital to any product or even any tech company, tech group, tech what have you, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't have a product if we don't have a community centered
Yeah.
around that product.
Yeah.
Point
If
blank,
no
period.
one's using it, if no one's building with it.
Thank you, right? GitHub would not exist if it wasn't for the community around GitHub, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that's really, really powerful, right? So I think that that's the value of community. Community allows some of our most incredible centers of thought, or our most incredible like ideas to come into fruition, and that's purely based on the fact that there is a community that has contributed to that idea, or said that we're going to push this idea forward because we believe in it so much.
Yes. That was a great answer. I love that. No, and that's so true. Like it doesn't have to be just tech, but like some things won't be successful if it wasn't for the
Yes.
community. So
Yes. That is throughout the world, throughout life, throughout America. Absolutely.
yes.
Yeah.
I really can't wait for your communal project or any other project that you would have coming up. I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
We're gonna okay, so I'll quickly I seen Mohit like ask this question a million times, and maybe he didn't hear our question, or they didn't hear our question earlier or our answer. So just gonna repeat it. I think you essentially said that WebAssembly expands the
Yes,
opportunities for JavaScript. So,
absolutely.
yeah. So just repeating that, and if I know folks were asking for Nyah to repeat their journey and stuff like that, but if you want, y'all, this is going to be on YouTube. Go rewatch it. It'll be on Twitch for 7 days, and it'll be on YouTube for forever. So go rewatch it. This whole conversation was packed with like lots of great knowledgeable like bits. We're gonna transition into like some like non-technical, just like fun questions. And the first one is, what was the first programming language you ever learned?
Okay, so perfect. Some folk will say, well, the first anything that I learned was HTML, but that's a markup language, not a programming language.
Yeah.
The first programming language that I learned was JavaScript.
Nice. Yeah, I never know which one to pick because I'm like, I learned SQL, but technically that's a structured query language, and then I'm like, I learned HTML, but it's markup language. So yeah, I just be getting too thinking too much about it. All
Yeah.
right, if money wasn't an issue, how would you ideally spend your time? Like job wise or not job wise? Like what would you just want to be doing?
Yeah. Okay. If money wasn't an issue, let's see. If money wasn't an issue, okay. So I'll answer job wise, and then I'll answer non-job wise. So if money wasn't an issue, I would be. If money wasn't an issue? How would you ideally spend your time? I would spend my time helping others get the confidence to understand that they deserve to be in this space,
Yeah.
right? Specifically tech, and helping them both navigate their experiences within tech, and helping them be successful within tech, whether that looks like reviewing code, whether that looks like advocating for the use of accessible and free software, or whether that looks like helping seniors, which is what I love to do. Learn to be technically literate, because, honey, when I'm holding up a mirror to my 86-year-old grandpa because he muted his computer by mistake and trying to see, because he doesn't know how to screen share, so he has a mirror, and I'm trying to read things backwards.
Oh my god. You have so much patience
It
because
requires patience.
I can't help my mom with her technical problems anymore. Like I used to work
Yep.
in IT support at a company that had a lot of like more senior people.
Yeah.
And like when I would come home and she'd be like, "Hey, I don't know how to do this." I'm like, "No, I can't. Like I'm done." I'm like,
Yes.
"I'm sorry."
It requires an amount of patience that I think very few of us have. But like it's really important that they're able to, I think that tech in many ways, like just in some ways forgets about our seniors, right? Forgets about people who don't have easy mobility, or who don't can't, who have maybe low vision, for
Yeah.
example. So accessibility and accessibility to underserved folk is what I would be doing 1,000% of the time.
I
So
love that.
whether that's through Communal or whether that's through Loving Tech Co, which is the little organization that I do for seniors, it could be anything.
I love that. No, you're just such a great person.
Stop! Stop!
Like you're like, I'm gonna help them. I recognize that they do need
They
that.
need it.
They,
No.
while I'm like running away. But I do like the experimental feature that GitHub has. Hey GitHub, for that reason, where like, you can like speak and then the code types out for you. Because I'm like, that makes so much sense for
Yes.
people who like they don't have that mobility in their hands or their arms, or they may not have like the vision. So I love that.
That's incredible.
Someone said family tech support, the one job you can never quit.
That's right, ever. You're in that for life, honey.
And then someone said they're really starting to work on building their patience. And they said, I'm really happy to see how much effort is spent in building communities. Thank you for making tech reach more people that would benefit from it. That's awesome. Thanks.
Appreciate you.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm thinking maybe your answer to this is communal, but I'm just curious. What's a dream open source project that you would like to create one day if you had the time?
So hear me out, everybody. Hear me out. Okay. Guess what? Ooh. It's Communal. All right. It's Communal. Yup. Let you get ready. Okay.
Mind blown. Yeah.
I'm blown. Like, no, like that. I'm thrilled, and I'm so excited to present it to you all in a few weeks. I'm gonna say a few weeks rather than a month. In a few weeks, okay. I think you're going to be really excited, and I'm really grateful for any contributions, any help in building out this application, because it's not about me, right? Who am I, right? It's about the product. It's about what we're building, how we're going to be helping people with the product that we're building. And I'm just grateful to both GitHub and the entire open source community as well. And everyone who's interested in possibly lending a hand, even if it's doing just a little edit to some copy, for example, the wording of the application or anything like that. I'd really appreciate it. And I know that the community, once it's out there and being used, would really appreciate it too. So
yeah. Even if it's you don't have to say a few weeks, even if it's in 6 months, I will be there to promote it and support it. Like,
thank you, friend.
All right. If you could eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Ooh, honey, yes. It's an addiction. I ain't even gonna lie. I'm addicted. So there's this food called misirwat, and then we have kikalicha and sembusas. Okay, so it's Ethiopian food, vegetarian Ethiopian food, lentil based. That I would.
You Ethiopian?
Say it again.
You're Ethiopian?
No, baby, I'm not. I'm from Atlanta.
I was like, wait a minute.
Popping. I will always do that. I'm like, Ethiopian food for days.
Okay, I need to try that.
You haven't tried?
No.
This. Yes. We're gonna go. We're gonna go.
It sounds good. All right. How do you pronounce GIF? Do you say GIF or GIF? Or do you not care?
It's a GIF or is it GIF? All right. I pronounce it GIF.
GIF. Okay, nice. And then, last question. What is your favorite Beyonce song?
Woo, child. Okay. Beyonce, the queen, the legend, the GOAT. My favorite Beyonce song would have to be this song called Bigger. Okay.
Ooh.
And if you haven't heard Bigger, hear the first lyrics. If you feel insignificant, you better think again, right? You better wake up, because you're part of something way bigger. You're part of something way bigger. You're not just a speck in the universe. You're not just some words in a Bible verse. You are the living word.
Yes. What?
Yes.
Okay. I can't believe. Okay, y'all. I just want to say to the chat, I sent Nyah these questions like 1 hour before. And somehow all of your answers are so good, even the ones that we just like randomly threw to you in the chat. Like, it seems like you thought out all of this. Like, I'm impressed.
Always become correct. Yes.
I love that. Thank you. That was like the best answer to what's your favorite Beyonce song.
Oh, make me cry. Thank you.
All right. Well, I think like we're basically at the end. This was a really great conversation. Is there anything you want people to do? You want people to follow you on a certain Twitter um profile or LinkedIn or whatever? Like,
Yes.
where should people find you?
Yes, everyone. So if you are interested in either learning more about my journey or following the journey of Communal or the journey of teaching seniors to to use technology, which requires so much patience, but it's love, right? It's love. That's why I call it Loving Tech Company, Loving Tech Co. Um, uh, if you are interested in any of those things, or just like you are ready to fight the good fight and making sure that folk have access to tech in various and really robust ways, then please feel free to follow me. I am on Twitter at Nyah Macklin Dev. I also write various articles on Hashnode at the same link, Nyah Macklin Dev. You can find me on almost everything at Nyah Macklin Dev. And I'm looking forward to also doing Twitch streams like my good sister Giselle. Come on, yep, we've been on. So you'll see me there. But yes, I just wanted to say, like, I'm so grateful, right? Grateful for the opportunity to be here, grateful for the opportunity to speak to Rizelle, my good sis. And grateful to GitHub for hosting Open Source Friday and specifically talking to Black open source maintainers. Thank you to the incredible work of Rizelle for that. So I appreciate y'all for coming so much. I'm thrilled to be in community with y'all. I'm thrilled to be in this fight with y'all. Like I'm really grateful. So excited to continue in this work, and follow me if you want to learn more.
Awesome. Yes, follow Nyah, y'all. And thank you so much for coming on. And I was completely disorganized with this, but I really appreciate it. One of my favorite streams. And thanks to the people in the comments as well. Thanks for supporting and being engaged. I always love that. All right, bye y'all.
See y'all soon. Later.